Howdy, my peeps. Hope everybody's doing well. Uh, you're back for another episode of Story Time, and this is when G Money was a little young fella. Boy, I was really young. I'm trying to remember. I don't even remember the exact age. I might have been like nine-ish. I'm not sure. No, you know what? I was probably a little bit younger now. I think about it. Eight-ish. I don't know. I was a young fella, but where we lived in Wilmington, Delaware, was 1206 River Road, and it was all. Sorry about the background noise. All the birds are out there chirping and doing their thing, but it, gives a little ambiance to the sound effects. But so there was a lot of like wooded area around us. The elementary school was right next door. It was all woods. It went downhill, and I don't know, probably quarter mile, half mile or so. There was a major roadway. It was called Governor Prince Boulevard, and then on the other side of that was the Amtrak railroad system, the high speed trains, and then right next to that was the Delaware River. So it was really weird growing up. We I grew up in a most of my life until I was about, I don't know, into my teenage years. Grew up in a what was essentially a lighthouse. It was a converted into four apartments. The top cylinder, whatever you want to call it, up there, was where the beacons used to shine. And I've heard different stories growing up. I don't know which one's factual. I heard they relocated it up to where it was, or maybe it was always there. I find it hard to relocate something that tall. I don't know, but I'm trying to share it because it was real close to the Delaware River. When I tell you it was half mile away, it might not have even been that far. But I'll probably come around and circle around, talk to you more about that specific building at another date. But um, as you're facing the front of that complex, we lived in a lower right unit, and there was another little apartment to the lower left, and there was a door in the middle. When you would go up, there was like a landing, and there was two apartments upstairs. So that was the four apartments. That's kind of how it was configured. I tried to extract an old picture. I couldn't find a real good current one, but it was a really cool place to grow up. I'm not going to lie about that. Then to the right of us, there was a real big major apartment complex, and it's not vertical like they do them now, like the condos or whatever you want to call it now. It was all laid out, covered a lot of. It was three major streets. It was I'm trying to remember all the names: Kinlan Drive, Prospect, and something else. I forgot the other one, but big area. So my brother's 3 years older than me, and we became friends with a some people that were living in the apartments over there. And it was two brothers, and then there was another family over there that was a relative of the two brothers, and there was a another young one um, who was a cousin. So, like, pretty much the five of us, when we were that young, we palled around a lot together. And the two, the three of them, the two brothers and then the cousin, come over to where we lived and said, "Hey, man, we're gonna go down to the river. Do you want to come along?" And we pretty much knew, like, well, let's check. We got to check, our parents and that whole spiel. And my dad was never a good father. I can tell you straight up. If you ever watch the No Judgment Here with Tish Ross podcast that I talked about stuff growing up, he was a terrible father. But I will tell you, this is the only right decision he probably ever made in his life. So he did not approve of us going with the other three kids. They were a little bit older than me, closer. They were a little bit older than me, kind of like around my brother's age, a little bit in between, but we were all like close in age, within 3 years of each other. So the two brothers and the cousin, I wish I could remember their names. I can see their faces plain as day. But like that was 50 years ago or so. So they go on a little adventure, a little journey down to the Delaware River. Turns out they were on a journey. So now I'm going to tell you a little bit of the rest of the story. Where we lived, and it was called Bellefonte, Delaware. Like up here at the top of the hill was the firehouse. A little further away was the state police barracks. Basically, it went down like this, kind of flattened out for a little bit. We were on the you would call it the second tier, I guess. Then it went down a little bit more, and then you were getting closer to the river, level and what have you. So I don't think firehouses do this anymore, unless you live somewhere in the Midwest. I don't know how that works anymore, but the Brandywine Fire Company was a volunteer fire company, and they had a lot of members, but they were all volunteers. So what they would do was audibly sound a real loud siren, and they would send out so many tones or signals or whatever they did to notify all the volunteers, like, hey, Houston, we got a problem. We need you to get up here to the firehouse, basically. And now it's probably all done by text or, voice, whatever it is. But that's how it was done back then. So it was the weirdest thing, because I grew up listening to that audible sound my entire life. I used to always frequent that fire department because they had a cheap soda machine, cheap candy machine, and they would always let young kids kind of loiter in there and, participate in the air conditioning. And that's kind of what we did. We thought it was cool. But for hours, they kept sounding that. I don't know if it was hours, but it was a very longer period of time. They kept doing that audible notification. They needed a lot of people, apparently. Is what I can surmise now that I'm a little bit older and hopefully a little bit smarter. And then there was starting to be a lot of activity real close to our house, and people talking, and just like you could see strange behavior from the parents, from my mother and father. And turns out the three people that wanted us to go on an adventure, they were on a railroad trellis. And I guess with the wind or whatever was transpiring, the Amtrak trains, at that time, they were, I think they traveled like 100 miles an hour, probably minimum. And they were on a trellis, and Amtrak train took them out, killed all three of our young friends. So it was somewhat like, how can I say this? They told us about it later in the day. They kind of told us what was going on, and a little bit later, and as time passed, found out that when they were struck by this Amtrak train, they didn't even realize it was coming. Had something to do with the wind, or the direction, whatever it was, and they were taken out, right? So they were picking up remains of our three best friends for over a mile. So I did find that out later, and that was not something you want to hear. And we were so ticked off at our father for not allowing us to go on a journey down to the Delaware River to, throw stones in the river, or, whatever you do. You're on a hike, basically. You're just on an adventure. You have no ill intentions. And then the people that wanted us to go on that journey, all three of them perished, and it's not a good way to go. So the two brothers, I'm pretty sure they were the only children of their parents. I think the cousin, as well, was the only child of that family. So two families were greatly affected. We were obviously affected emotionally and stuff like that. And you're young and you're always playing the what if game and stuff like that. I will tell you, like I said prior, that was the only right decision my father probably ever made in his living life, pertaining to parenthood. So I just wanted to share that. So, if you're a parent and your kid wants to go on any type of adventure where there could be something like this involved, you might want to reconsider. I don't believe in neglecting kids from being on outdoor adventures, but this was a weird, unique situation. It happened. It was a real thing. And, I'm here to talk to you about it, unfortunately. I wish the other three kids were really cool kids. I wish I wish we weren't talking about this, but it's a true story. So, talk to you again another time, folks. Remember, always know your legal limits, and always try to make the right decisions in life. And please look out for other people. Remember, it's Memorial Day weekend coming up, so just remember the true meaning. Thank you. Peace out, folks.